With the battle between Cath and the 7 deadly sins officially over, and we're on a break week this week, I figured it was about time I reread that part of the story and give my initial thoughts on the entire mini-arc as a whole, because now we're in a new arc with the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, just the 4 of them as the main POV characters, which is a long time coming, so I figured might as well talk about this arc in a vacuum and see what I liked, what I didn't like, what worked, and what didn't work, and how the story could progress going forward with the repercussions of this arc. Before we jump into things, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to see more of me outside of the usual content I tend to make, go and check out my second channel, GW Comics, where I talk about comic books. DC is my main focus right now, but I'm expanding out to other stuff and I'm experimenting there as well. It's a passion project of mine. I would really appreciate if you guys take the time and go and check it out whenever you get the chance. Link to that will be in the description down below. But with that out of the way, let's just jump right into things. So, this arc, which I'm basically just titling the fateful battle between chaos and sin, because that just sounds cool as hell, and I don't think we have an official name for this arc yet. I like the initial beginning of the arc. The first couple of chapters were honestly incredibly hype, and had really nice build-up for the actual confrontation between Cath and the Sins, and the full just breaking of the facade of Cath pretending to be King Arthur of Camelot the entire time, and just the Sins realizing that they can just go apeshit and just kill the guy, no holding back, without any worries of potentially killing their own friend. Chapter 220 was probably one of my favorite chapters of the entirety of Four Knights of the Apocalypse because there was no dialogue in it whatsoever. The entire thing was literally just being Thetis just casting the spell to bring the people of Camelot into Leonis and teleporting them there, and seeing as Cath, disguised as Arthur, is just parading around the entire kingdom with everybody that he has fooled, treating him like a literal, king and deity and stuff like that saved them from hardship, as they all teleport away and the fake visages of their lost loved ones just begin to disappear one after the other, is incredibly cool to see as Camelot around him begins to crumble, as the entirety of the population is what kept Camelot's main form. And seeing him just break away from his Arthur persona and just go back fully into Cath and just rage out, it was honestly incredibly satisfying, all as he opens up a massive portal in the sky to go straight to Leonis Castle as he meets the 7 deadly sins as he stares them down. The setup for this chapter specifically, with Lancelot infiltrating Camelot and just giving all these random people this amulet that has the homing beacon for Thetis to teleport them to Leonis, was great. And I do really like seeing chapters like this, especially honestly, like, I'm a battle junkie. I like seeing action sequences. If this was a full action-based chapter of just action, I would absolutely love it. But seeing a singular story and setup for the actual arc to begin, being just a chapter of just no dialogue, just letting the illustrations tell the story, is always nice to see. But then we get the actual confrontation between the Sins and Cath disguised as Arthur with the 4 perils by his side, who are fully brainwashed at this point. I liked how the people of Camelot just did not ask to be taken from Camelot, the place that they viewed as their home, because the Sins did not like Arthur or are saying stuff that they think are lies that Arthur has been lying to them, which it's true, they were being lied to. And it wasn't until Gareth, surprisingly enough, with his ability to conjure the dead, allowing the souls of the deceased loved ones of all these citizens to actually be able to talk to the people that they lost, to realize that the illusion was broken. Now, a criticism I have seen of this section, and I fully understand, is how would the people of Camelot realize that these are the actual spirits of their deceased loved ones? And that is a very valid concern and a very valid critique. But based on how things go, only specific things could be felt when you see these people. And with how mystical this series is, with magic and everything, it stands to reason that the second you see, like, the spirit of someone you thought was dead, the pieces would legitimately begin to connect, and you would probably begin to see the facade break. And I'm just glad that we actually got a side character introduced in the prior arc, having at least even though it wasn't an action role, it was a pivotal role in breaking the lie that Cath fed to all these people. And it was great, because they've instantly turned on him, and it just led to the all-out battle between Cath and the Sins, because he just decided to go full scorched earth, and decided, I'm gonna just kill everybody now, a lot sooner than I planned, but screw it, you're all dead, I don't really care anymore. And just led to a full counter for Meliodas officially beginning the fight. And I like how Cath still views anyone that serves him as pawns, because he used the four perils as shields, and they're all mangled and broken up, but basically, as we found out later, rewound them with time magic to have them be back at full health, and to have them go out and cause absolute mayhem. The build-up and setup for the actual fight between Meliodas and Cath, starting things off, is honestly great. And I do enjoy at least most of the fight when it's just Cath versus Meliodas. As you can tell, Meliodas is still kind of holding back, because he still feels like he can save Arthur, but is not sure if this is really the Arthur he knows, and if he should hold back. You see it in this fight. Heck, Meliodas ends up having to save the building where Elizabeth and her father are in, because Cath decides to play dirty and distract Meliodas. All while Meliodas is holding up the building, he's trying to stab him in his back, but Meliodas manages to surprise him and ends up beforehand using Lost Vein to create clones of himself to begin to overwhelm Cath for a bit. And I like that the second Meliodas makes sure that the tower where his wife and father-in-law are, is staying in place, he goes down and just beats the ever-loving shit out of Cath with almost zero effort. Cath still tries to do stuff, even limit his movements, but the second Meliodas goes just Demon Mark mode, he dominates the fight. He's kicking his ass. And it makes us go back to the fight, back in the original Leonis arc of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, making us realize if Meliodas did go Demon Mark fully for the whole fight, and if Tristan didn't interrupt by, letting his demon powers just go out of control, he probably would have been dominating that fight as well. It was even to the point where Cath was trying to use magic in different ways against Meliodas, but keeps forgetting that Meliodas has his full counter. And then, when he tries to overwhelm Meliodas with a bunch of targets, Bond shows up in order to just deal with all the minor threats that he creates, until he just ends up pinning down Cath on the back, face planting him on the ground, as he then just starts to just curse at the two of them, and he basically slips through the facade and just basically reveals to the two of them that he is in fact Cath the entire time. Just letting Meliodas realize this, and it leads to probably one of the funnier moments of this entire section of the story, where the second Meliodas realizes this is Cath, he drops his power. He just like, oh, it was you this entire time. Oh, cool, let me help you up, pal. Man, I am really glad to see you. And even Cath is wondering what the hell is going on, as he has a very awkward smile. And then we instantly cut to him having a massive hole in his chest, as Meliodas just punched him with a literal demonic-powered fist, saying that, well, since it's you, I don't gotta hold back and I can bury you deep in the ground where you belong. One of the best moments for Meliodas in the entire sequel series, and just seeing him just no longer holding back, finally, and to actually do stuff to beat Cath to the ground, is great. Now, before Bond joined this section with Meliodas in the fight against Cath, we did have him just saving a bunch of civilians with Diane, King, and Gowther from the Four Perils, just destroying the area as the Holy Knights are trying to get the citizens out of the city. He has an interaction with Guinevere. It's funny, it's nice, it's kind of wholesome to a degree, but we then get teased again with the future vision of Lancelot standing over his own father's corpse, and Guinevere trying to struggle with the fact of trying to actually tell Bond that he might die by the hands of his own son, or something might lead to Lancelot seeing the death of his own father, and us wondering what will lead to these types of events to happen in the future, and Guinevere still resigning herself to the idea that she can't change the future, and doesn't really have the confidence and the courage to even attempt that, with the possibility of something worse happening. But either way, their interaction was nice, it was funny. The whole father-son having similar tastes is kind of weird with how it was portrayed, obviously with how Seven Deadly Sins tends to be. But other than that, it was a pretty nice interaction. And then he goes off to just basically 1v4 the Four Perils. They instantly go Chaos mode and try and beat through Ban, but all they do is just basically destroy his shirt, and he just wipes them all out effortlessly. Because, if anything, this entire mini-arc solidifies that Ban is probably one of the strongest characters in the series, if not the strongest, at least physically, in terms of the 7 Deadly Sins. He has the most durability, stamina, and full-on strength. Meliodas is probably the only one that can probably match him in terms of strength, but from what we see in this entire section of the story, Ban is just on another level from everybody else. But yeah, Diane and King are basically holding off the Four Perils for the time being until Ban just takes them down for a bit, and casually, mind you, but they're still holding them off as much as they possibly can, all while Meliodas and Ban are just dealing with Cath, who just goes into his true form and tries to attack them as much as possible. But when he does that, he decides to just take away the chaos that he implanted within the Four Perils and make his giant chaos staff to basically get more of the power that he split off from himself in order to have a better chance against the two of them. And he then summons a bunch of chaos beasts around Leonis' capital and just has them try and kill and capture all of the people there to try and get hostages and stuff like that. Now, King and Diane are there to deal with as many of these things as possible, but obviously it's a lot, so it just comes down to, again, another Ban Glaze Fest, as he jumps up into the air and uses his sacred treasure, Chartreuse. I can't pronounce the name of that thing for the life of me for some reason. But he then ends up using his Assault Hunt and just wipes out all of the Chaos Beasts in one fell swoop. And Cath, after seeing this, just tries to get Ban off guard, tosses him to the ground, and tries to hit him with the staff to try and get him to die. But Ban overwhelms him with the sheer fear of God, and just slams him into the ground, giving Cath his first taste of fear. Meliodas tries to fight Cath 1v1 again, but he still breaks free from his bindings, while Cath keeps trying to hit him with a mix of holy and demon magic that is wearing him down a bit, but Meliodas is still breaking out of Cath's bindings and managing to hold his own. But it's very visible that Meliodas is kind of tiring himself out from this. Now, people during this section of the story, during the weekly releases of the chapters, were wondering why Meliodas wasn't going assault mode. And basically, it's kind of what we would kind of figure. He isn't really holding back much, but if he goes assault mode, he would risk hurting anyone that's left over in the kingdom's rubble that hasn't been evacuated yet. Obviously, like the Four Perils, Elizabeth, etc. Because if all the sins go 100% while there are still people there, there could be people caught in the crossfire and they have a lot more casualties. But Ban does notice that Meliodas is getting tired out and just decides to tag in 1v1 Cath. And Cath tries to do stuff to Ban. He tries to actually beat him down, makes a Chaos Beast out of the ground to tie him up and poison him, but Ban just casually rips it off one-handed like it was nothing. Cath then hits him with big lightning and fire magic until Ban just ends up jumping in and just makes another hole in his chest with a simple kick running him through. As, yeah, Ban literally not exhausted, no damage towards him, and is treating this like a day at the park. And the sins overwhelming Cath, especially Ban and Meliodas, makes sense for where they were at the end of 7 Deadly Sins and coming in 18 years later. They definitely wouldn't have gotten weaker, they would still grow stronger, because especially once they figured out that quote-unquote Arthur was doing all these things, especially once we got the Fortnite Apocalypse like prophecy, they definitely wouldn't have laid around doing absolutely nothing. They definitely kept up their strength. But this did raise the concern of Cath's threat level. But we did get hints that Cath wouldn't be able to take on all the sins at once anyway, because back in the Leonis arc, the second, we got teases of all of the 5 remaining sins that were in Leonis beginning to seemingly mobilize on Leonis when Cath appeared there in the first place. He retreated because he knew he couldn't handle all 5 sins at once. But he is definitely overconfident since he has the power of chaos, the power of the creation god of this universe. But obviously not all of it, which is why the sins are definitely overwhelming him. But with the sins having the advantage, this is definitely one of the first real instances of that it feels like Nakaba kind of wrote himself into a corner and had to find a way to reel things back into Cath's favor somehow. Because we have King monologuing like an idiot saying how Bond survived purgatory, but also that the only thing that Bond can really fight back against is his own age. And you do not tell that to someone who you know has the powers of creation and can manipulate any living thing if he's strong enough. Cath uses time magic to age up everybody in the general vicinity, which all the Sins sense, and Bond is instantly aged up to the point where he's coughing up blood, as it seems like his own organs are failing. Like, he is aged up decades at this point. Bond, I believe he's in his 40s, I think, at this point in the story. But he probably got aged up to at least 90 or 100. Though I do like the added benefit that Bond would have been turned into dust or a skeleton, which was Cath's intent, until we realized that Merlin, with the magic golem she left in Leonis, managed to keep Bond from aging upwards anymore and to die. But this also gives us an interesting plot thread. Cath eats the magic golem and now has Merlin's magical frequency. So now, anywhere in the world, he will be able to find Merlin and in turn Arthur, and as we all know, the real Arthur is incredibly weakened, so Cath, if he finds them, could probably be able to reabsorb the rest of the power of chaos and kill Arthur. So that adds a bit of tension for the future of the story, but even with that, we then get the Sins still trying to fight off Cath, with King and Diane jumping into the fight, but Cath telling them not to fight because he, in the instance where Bond was aged up, and since Bond can't really use his sacred treasure to the full extent he did beforehand since he can barely move at all, the chaos beasts he had in the area regenerate and manage to capture all of the civilians, even fatally wounding Naziennes, King and Diane's daughter, as seemingly a kill shot, cutting off seemingly slicing her in half. So King and Diane just give up, because if they keep fighting, Cath will just have everyone else killed, and they don't want any more loss of life, especially if their own daughter is in the crossfire. Now, King and Diane just drop their weapons because they can't fight. Meliodas almost rages out into full-on assault mode to take down Cath, but seeing that even Hauser and Gil are getting killed, and other civilians are about to be killed, Meliodas also has to give up. And that just leaves Cath to brutalize all of the Sins in a gruesome fashion, with Gowther, we find out later, just being crushed under a building, Meliodas being run through and diced up into multiple pieces, with the only people around that can do anything being Diodora with this sealed box that he was given by Meliodas before this arc started, and Elizabeth, who he sold a ghost to convey the situation to, which leaves us with the cliffhanger of Elizabeth joining into the fight, because she's literally the only other strongest character that can do anything. Which leads us to Cath decimating the Sins, but then everybody just magically coming back together and being fully healed, as Elizabeth manages to use her goddess powers to actually heal everybody in the entire kingdom from a wide range. And Cath doesn't want to heal her in the area and tries to kill her in one shot. But Elizabeth gets no damage whatsoever, and even King and Diane, as Cath tries to slice off their heads, but nothing happens. As Elizabeth ends up doing the same thing for everyone else that's being killed, as it seems like no matter what happens to them, no matter what deadly force applied, no one is being killed. It's like the damage never even happened at all. As Gowther then gives us a very nice bit of lore that the Supreme Deity entered the battlefield in the Holy War at one time, and managed to overwhelm the Demon Realm's commandments from just regular Goddess Clan members, because they were healed to the point where they received no damage. I think that's probably the best reveal of this arc, with Elizabeth's new Supreme Deity form titled Perfect Time, alluding to us that Elizabeth is burning up her own life essence in order to maintain it, which ends up leading us to Meliodas knowing what's going to happen, but wipes his tears, goes into assault mode, and jumps in with the rest of the Sins to fight Cath in a 1v5 in a massive fight. And as expected, with Elizabeth healing everybody, the Sins are dominating Cath. They are overwhelming the guy, slicing him up, turning him to dust. Cath still tries to deal death blows, but thanks to Elizabeth healing everybody, they manage to break through and manage to overwhelm him with a multitude of different attacks, slicing and dicing him up. As it shows, Cath cannot win a fight against the 7 deadly sins at all. But he then notices that the healing from Elizabeth is beginning to slow down, if not slightly, and so he realizes that she's running out of time. So he devises the brilliant idea to bring all his chaos power together and turns those into a giant crystallized shield, essentially, and goes all in on absolute defense, to the point where even combo attacks from either King and Diane or Meliodas and Bon barely leave a scratch. And so he's just waiting out the time for Elizabeth to burn through all of her power so that the Sins can't be healed from death blows, and then he can just jump in and kill them all swiftly and easily. Honestly, good plan, not gonna lie. That definitely makes a whole lot of sense, as if you're dealing with people that are constantly healing, wait for the healer to run out of energy first, and then overwhelm them with what he was doing previously. And so things, while they swung towards Cath, they swung back towards the Sins thanks to Elizabeth in her supreme deity form, but now they're swinging a bit more towards Cath, with Elizabeth running out of energy and Cath coming up with a surprisingly smart plan for him to kind of bide out time for the perfect opportunity, or the perfect time, to take the battle back. But it's then that things begin to swing back to the Sins as Theodora shows up with the chained up box that he received from Meliodas earlier, lays it on the ground, breaks the seal, and then opens up a gate to Purgatory, which again Theodora has because of his despair ability when he killed one of his attendants, well, that tried to kill him, and gained that power back, in order to try and summon the beast from Purgatory. And we get the comedic and hilarious reveal that it was a quote-unquote meat pie that Meliodas made as his grand masterpiece, and it's revealed that the person that was being summoned from Purgatory was actually Hawk the entire time, as he puts one of his hooves through this tiny portal and completely one-shots Cath's perfect defense, just with no effort whatsoever, and then squeezes himself through that portal and reveals himself to be enormous, the size of, well, his mom in the original series, which shocks literally everybody. And this definitely makes me question the power scaling, but at the same time also makes sense because Purgatory beasts are weird to an extent. And he was in Purgatory for millions of years, and so no wonder he is physically incredibly powerful. Which ends up giving us the strongest form of power in the Seven Deadly Sins verse, a giant pig. Which then Cath tries to just kill everybody with a giant chaos energy blast up in the air, but Hawk just blows it away with a massive airstream that he just blows towards Cath. This isn't even magic, it is just air pressure. And yeah, this brings things back to the Sins as Hawk goes back into Purgatory, as everybody once more overwhelms Cath to the point where Diane throws a giant tsunami of just sheer earth. Bon slices and dices him with a salt hunt. King uses Sunflower with a literal energy burst of sunlight towards him. Meliodas dices him up and turns him into Swiss cheese with Trillion Dark. And we end things off with basically a generational trauma attack, where Gowther uses Nightmare Teller in a combo spell to literally make Cath, with the last piece of energy that he has left, well, last piece of himself that he has left, now constantly remember the fear, pain, and humiliation that he experienced fighting the Seven Deadly Sins. Anytime he thinks of revenge, tries to do something to the Sins and their loved ones, or even tries to attack Britannia and its people again, he will experience all of that tenfold all at once, leaving him paralyzed with fear and anguish. Which is a fitting end to a character like Cath, but also, as he has to disappear and retreat to somewhere deep in the Camelot Chaos Dimension that he created, to effectively lick his wounds from probably the most humiliating defeat of his life. And yeah, Cath is gone, he is defeated by the Sins, and the arc ends with Elizabeth being comatose, basically being essentially in a vegetative state, as Gowther basically says that she should have been dead, but with the shock to her system from literally using godlike powers at that point, it's a miracle she's even still alive, but they don't see her waking up at all anymore. And that is kind of outside of the destruction of Leonis as a whole, and people losing their homes. Elizabeth is technically the only casualty of this arc, but also, Bon is still aged up to like probably early hundreds, despite his body still being like physically fit. Inside, it's aged up to the point where his body could fail him at any moment. as he tries to go back to Benwick. We literally get a whole, son, it's your turn next to protect everyone else, yada yada yada. That classic trope of the previous generation passing the baton to the new. And that's basically how this arc ends. The Sins basically are going to go their separate ways again after potentially helping to rebuild Leonis. Meliodas is going to go into depression now that Elizabeth is basically comatose for almost the rest of her own mortal life now. And depression and sadness is definitely hitting Meliodas hard at this point. And his son's on a dangerous mission right now. So there's a lot going on for the poor guy. And Bond could probably croak any day now. But at the end of the day, this arc was fun, but my god, was there so many plot conveniences for this back and forth to happen that it really just feels like Nakaba wrote himself into a corner way too many times and didn't want one side to win so easily or so quickly, no matter what. The Sins having the advantage originally made complete sense, because they are literal god killers in the universe of Seven Deadly Sins when they beat the Supreme Deity and the Demon King. And it makes sense that Cath, even with the power of chaos, would still be overwhelmed by them, and Bond especially is still kind of crazy. But to have the turning point being that King of all people yapped like an idiot, reminding Cath that Bond is human, and just gives him the idea to age Bond up, to kill him by aging him, is really dumb and a massive just plot convenience. I feel like with the power as vast and as unpredictable as chaos, Cath could have done something differently. Heck, towards the end of this section of this arc, Cath literally went all in on absolute defense to make the characters waste time, and since we're all together, probably plan to overwhelm them with massive attacks at the end of the day. And Bond was already aged up, so hey, who knows? But yeah, it kept going back and forth. Cath had the advantage thanks to Bond being aged up and then bringing back the Chaos Beasts, killing Holy Knights, seemingly killing Nazians, and about to kill all the civilians that the Sins were protecting, causing them to give up and let Cath brutalize and nearly kill them. Elizabeth jumping in was great, and seeing the potential that she had by seemingly nearly giving up her entire life to make sure that nobody would die was honestly great and was a really nice character moment for her. We had literally had a good chunk of that last chapter of the fight where she was reminiscing with her time with Meliodas and the Sins for the original series and how she lived a long, fulfilling life. And that was a really nice emotional beat. And it would be a shame if Elizabeth does wake up at this point, because she is a casualty of war at this point. She should have just died instead of being in a coma, but I guess Nakaba didn't have the guts to fully kill her off after everything and just wants to leave a plot thread for the potential of her waking back up. For all we know, I don't know. It's a weird thing with me. But also having Hawk come in to save the day, being so overwhelmingly powerful to break Cath out of the cocoon shell that he made to withstand all the Sin's attacks, in order to lead to all of them just constantly overwhelming him with a barrage of attacks in order to just give him generational trauma as a parting gift. I had fun with this section of the story. I had fun with it. I liked it. But so many things had to be done out of just sheer convenience and coincidence that it was just dumb. A lot of stuff was dumb, and I really hate to say it, despite how really cool the fights were in this section of the story. But I really feel like with the power of Chaos, Nakaba could have done something more creative for Cath to get the upper hand on Bond, instead of just having King be the one to make him remember that Bond is human to do this. Cath probably could have done that on his own, for all we know. But yeah, plot convenience. That's really all this arc comes down to at the end of the day. A lot of plot convenience, and that definitely drags it down. But that also leaves us with the question of what's Cath's role in the story now, since the previous generation beat his ass so badly that he can't even leave his home without remembering the generational beatdown that he got. Is he still the main antagonist of the story now, or is someone new going to jump in at some point? Because there is a sense of direction that seems like we don't have, but I do have actual faith that something will come out of this. Four Knights has been pretty good when it comes to this type of stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cath has something new up his sleeve. But at the end of the day, it was a fun arc, I'm not going to lie. Had a really strong start, really iffy middle once the conveniences came out of the way, and had a relatively strong ending. The plot conveniences for all these different twists to different sides of characters is definitely what dragged it down for me, but it is what it is. I wish it was better. Everyone wishes it was better, but I can't help but say that I still enjoyed it. And whatever's left for Cath and the Sins to do in the story up until this point, I am interested to see what happens next. But what did you guys think of this section of the story? Do you think that I'm being a bit too negative and hard on it towards the end with the plot conveniences, or do you agree with me and say that things could have been a lot better? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment sections down below. What was your favorite moments of this arc of the story? What did you dislike the most? Do you think Elizabeth should have just died instead of being put into a magical coma, a la Sleeping Beauty, I guess? And what do you think is going to happen next in the story? Let me know in the comments below, and once more, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy what I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to support the channel more directly, either become a channel member or go and check out my Patreon, link in the description. You will get access to videos that I haven't uploaded yet, as those are basically videos I just keep in limbo because I have no idea when they're going to come out, or they were from review series that I have not been able to finish for over a year now, and don't want to release stuff that isn't finished. So if you want to see that stuff to see what I could have made or what I might come back to, go and check out my Patreon, link in the description. First tier, you'll get access to literally everything on there, and my Discord server. But with all that said and done, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have an awesome day.